Ryan Jones
You're
is
good.
with us from the Artist Hand Gallery. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Ryan, I think the last time we talked to you, you were sitting on your porch with your cat.
I think that's true, yeah. Today I'm back in our workroom, ceiling fan going, and looking at a bird feeder.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And so's the cat. Let's talk a little bit about a news release you put out from the Artist Hand earlier this week, asking in particular for artists, persons of color who are artists, to submit their works and get them on display at the Artist Hand Gallery. What spurred that?
True story, Todd. A lot of the social unrest that we see across the nation got me thinking, but most particular, attending the Black Lives Matter rally in IRNC Park, and a few days earlier, the spontaneous rally in Carpenter Avenue there in front of the mural, in response to the George Floyd killing and some other tragic events that have been going on. And it really caused me to step back and take a look at what the Artist's Hand does and what it represents, because in many ways it's a community gathering place, a community viewing place. It's where we get a chance to take a look at ourselves through the artwork that our local artists produce. And it doesn't take but a moment to realize that there are no artists of color in our collection, and that's just wrong, and we need to make a correction about that. So I spent some time thinking about how to go about that, and decided to do what we call a pop-up event, a week-long exhibition, specifically of work by Black artists out of our community, with a longer goal than that. I don't want that to seem token.
Mm-hmm. And has the Artist Hand traditionally gone out and sought art of a particular type or by particular artists?
Not in such a broad way as this. We'll occasionally do an open call. We'll look for work on particular subjects or in particular genres. But we've never taken the step before to look for a particular voice out of our community, and that's, I think, what we're doing here. My long game here is to attract some local artists with unique points of view to join the gallery and to be commissioned artists within the work that we show year-round.
Mm-hmm. That'd be wonderful. So what's the response been since the announcement was made earlier this week? Have you had a good response?
I've had some good response. I've only had so far a couple of contributions, but our deadline for contributions isn't until August 1st. Mm-hmm. And my experience is that contributions tend to come in the week before the deadline. We're all sort of deadline driven. But I've reached out specifically to people I know in the community, either people with contacts or people who are artists themselves. And the response has been very positive and various. One of the things that I hope we'll discover for this is that there's not a monolithic voice of any kind. Artists are a diverse population and have a lot of different viewpoints that they come from. So we're not looking for the right work. We're looking for a diverse body of work.
And artists are particularly hard on themselves, so probably some of them are taking a look at the works that we might look at and judge to be darn good and say to themselves, no, it's not good enough for me. And so that might prevent some in any setting from submitting their artwork to say to themselves, I can do better. I don't like it myself. Why would anybody else? And that's really not the right way to approach it, is it?
It's not. Pablo Picasso had a very famous quote that I use often, and he said that paintings are never finished. They just stop in interesting places. So I'd like to see work that has stopped in interesting places. And we are our own worst critics. I've accepted a lot of work into the gallery that people have said, they come in sort of sheepish, and maybe this is the first time they've thought to exhibit in a gallery anywhere.
Uh-huh.
And I'll coach them through how to present their work, how to price their work, how to prepare their work, and get them ready to stand before an audience. You know, I'm a theater professor, and there's something to that many visual artists feel that they're not ready to stand in front of their audience yet, and are a little bit nervous about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's understandable, absolutely understandable. And I'll help out anyone who needs that little bit of coaching to get out there in front of people.
Yeah, that's a whole big part of it, isn't it? Because
it is.
They really need that confidence to get out and do that. And this could be something that really opens doors for folks, just the fact that they're joining a community of art rather than standing there by themselves feeling like I'm naked on the stage. It doesn't have to be that way.
So true, so true. We represent about 24 artists, and what I've noticed over the years, we've been open 8 years as of the 13th of this month, and we've seen the work, the quality of work in Indiana generally increase because they start looking at each other and they support one another. I'll have H.K. Miller will come into the studio and take a look at Jolene Joyner's work and go, man, she has a great sense of composition.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll turn around and make sure that Jolene hears that, because H.K. and Jolene may not cross paths very often. But by being in that community and by being able to share work with one another, you know, the best of what you're doing gets amplified.
So the schedule now is to have this open call and just get them in the door.
Exactly right.
But then you would like, as you said, you'd like to develop it further. So what are the next steps that you have planned?
Well, after we do this show, and we'll have a reception, if the fates are willing, we'll have a reception for that August 14th, and then we open a new show the following week. This is part of what I'm calling the quarantine series. And that may sound a little bit black-humored, but no pun intended. But the quarantine series is a reflection on what's happening to us as we step back, as we take that pause for a moment that a lot of the circumstances this year have put us into, and our artists respond to that stance along with us in very visual ways. So. The following show is a collection of work from our resident artists in reflection on how they've spent this year, sort of newer work that's coming out of these particular circumstances. Part of those circumstances are what black people are going through right now and have been for decades, generations. And so we want to, I will, along with some other jurors, select some pieces out of the Black Lives Matter show and bring those forward into the month-long show that we're calling Sheltering. And then that will run a month. All of these works will be for sale. And then I will hopefully convince a few new artists to join the gallery and have their work shown year-round.
So for those artists who might not have felt compelled to submit works before, but they're certainly being more than just encouraged to now, what should they do?
Well, the best way for me to bring a new artist into any one of these three opportunities is for me to meet them and to take a look at their work. I would like to schedule a meeting at the gallery, but I can also look at work online. People can take pictures of their work, even with their cameras, and just send it on in. It doesn't need to be professionally shot or anything. Just to get a sense of who they are and what they're doing. And in order to set up a meeting with me or to send me something, it's pretty simple. It's you can contact me by email. It's probably the best way.
Uh-huh.
My first name, Brian with an I, at theartistshandgallery.com. And artists is plural, has an S on the end of it. So it's Brian at theartistshandgallery. And gallery has to be on the end of that, .com. Otherwise, it goes to a woman in North Carolina that does calligraphy.
Well, she might enjoy it too.
She might.
Brian Jones, thanks so much for being with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Todd. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too.
Day.